going on, boys? Quin69 here. Today I'm coming at you with a Path of Exile 2, my first Path of Exile 2 official build guide, okay? This is for an elemental bleed build, okay? And it's off meta as hell. We're talking, you're playing a witch, right? You're playing one of the girls, but you've also got a mace doing some badass big deck melee attacks, and you do some of the biggest bleeds in the game. Let me tell you. It does a lot of, clever. It's got a lot of clever uses of game mechanics and a lot of interesting ways of scaling damage that are abnormal. So I think if you're on Trade League, I think a lot of the items for this build are going to be cheap, and it's going to be very easy to get it up and running. I'm currently level 79. I'm playing entirely on hardcore solo self-found. So you know this build is a well all-rounded build. The TLDR of how it works is we're playing the Bloodwitch, which is like, okay, it's kind of crazy. Why are we doing that? Well, let me tell you why. We're using Sanguimancy. You don't get a choice. You have to take this. This Ascendancy point here basically makes it so when you're running around maps and you're killing things, you just get double life. Okay, it's actually, I thought it was going to be trash, but it's actually really, really good, especially for hardcore gamers and people who just don't want to die in maps, which, even on softcore in the current year, you don't want to do that. But the main reason we're playing the Bloodwitch is for this one node right here called Blood Barbs, okay? Elemental damage also contributes to bleeding magnitude. Now, okay, that sounds confusing because, like, what does that even mean? Like, contributes bleeding magnitude? The TLDR is all LE damage effectively counts as physical damage, okay, for bleeds. So what that means is you can use a combination of both fizz damage, LE damage, fire damage, cold damage, lightning damage, any types of damage, and it all counts as a single big hit for your ability to basically make mega giga bleeds. The other thing we're taking grasping wounds on the Ascendancy tree here. This is crazy overpowered. It doesn't look like much, right? But it's actually, it's actually 1 divided by 0.75, 33% more life. Okay, bro? Think of it like that. As long as you don't die to the dot, which you're not going to. You can just press escape to pause the game, log out, you're good to go. It's 33% more life. Is fucking crazy. Super potent for not dying. And you also get 3% increased life, which, guess what? That's like more life because there's no life on the fucking tree. So you get like 35% more life or some crazy amount of EHP from having this. The final Ascendancy, if you want to play like a pussy bitch, you can go Crimson Power, which is just more life. Or if you're a complete Giga Chad, you can go into basically crit damage per photo. I haven't actually decided because there is even an angle for infinite curse duration. So I haven't really decided that, but you get the idea. Now that you have the basic idea as to how the build is scaling its damage, let me show you the gems we're using. The main thing that you're going to use in order to kill bosses and kill monsters, and the main abuse case here of what we're doing for the build is a thing called Perfect Strike. Now, why is Perfect Strike so good? Obviously, it's a massive damage hit. We're talking 1,188% weapon damage. That's one of the biggest hits in the game, period. There's no cooldown. You can just repeatedly use it as many times as you want. If your mouse isn't bugging like my mouse is right now, it's bugging out right now. There it is, bro. Amazing attack. Not only is it hitting for 1,188% weapon damage, it also always ignites. So you get another dot, which you can scale. So basically, not only are you going to inflict a crazy bleed, you also get a really potent ignite, which is not 0 damage, right? The ignite itself, look, you can see here, ignite damage per second. It's literally 970 versus the, that's not my real numbers, right? 5.8k versus 6.1. You can see the ignite is huge. What's even more crazy is you can snapshot. Okay, we're using Infernal Cry. What is Infernal Cry? Well, usually that'd be a terrible ability to use for bleeds. But because we're the Bloodwitch and we can benefit from elemental attacks, you can see here, Infernal Cry, basically whenever you use this war cry, you gain up to 100% extra damage as fire. So basically you just press this button right next to a boss. It's a unique enemy. You get a ton of power. Any boss in the game, almost one shot. Most of the time it one shots, unless you miss or unless you don't, whatever the bleed misses or, pretty much anything in the game, you press this, you let go, the boss is going to die. The turns of gems, we're using Fire Infusion on Perfect Strike because it's just more damage. You have to be careful though if you have a weapon that has cold or lightning damage or something like that, or you have a bunch of cold lightning damage on your accessories. This could be a bad link. I'm using a Window of Opportunity, completely broken, 50% more damage, but you just have to land the perfect timing window. You have to release this ability at the perfect time. If you don't, it does 0 damage. So like if I fuck this up, you see? She does 0 damage, and it's going to be awful. So you have to time the ability correctly. And then we're using close combat, because 25% more damage is 25% more bleed and ignite. We do not get baited. You will get suggestions saying, use ignite gems in here. Whenever you're like creating a support gem or whatever, do not get baited. All right? That is just the game telling you incorrect details. This is bad, okay? This is bad. We don't want this because we want to do both ignite and bleed. And if you want to scale both ignite and bleed, just scale the fucking hit damage up. Scaling the hit damage scales both the ignite and the bleed. If you just do the ignite damage, well, guess what? Then your bleed is going to be shit. And actually, most of your damage does come from bleed at the end of the day because we are a bleed build, fundamentally. Bone Shatter, Impact Shockwave, that just helps you clear. Magnified Effect helps you clear. Heft, it's just some damage. Molten Blast, we're using Shatter Shot because it just more projectiles equals more stun, and we're just trying to proc the stun as fast as possible for the Bone Shatter. We're using Martial Tempo because it's really hard to cast fucking abilities in this game with this slow attack speed, and that's your main kind of like thing to clear packs with. We're using Overpower because we're just trying to proc the stun again to use Bone Shatter to clear the pack. Infernal Cry's got Premeditation for 15% more damage when you press Q, and then Rallying Cry because, I mean, why not get a bit of free rage? Leaf Slam, this just gives you Consecrated Ground when you land. I don't know, could help, who knows. Herald of Ash, Vitality for a little bit of regen. Time of Need, we've got Fast Forward to procs more often. And what's crazy is, this shit doesn't have a mana cost increase, so you can just put this in, and there's no penalty whatsoever. So yeah, make sure Time of Need. Time of Need is just there for like a little bit of a heal. Honestly, I'm not sold on Time of Need. It's kind of just okay. Then we've got Clarity for a bit of mana regen, and Precision for a bit of accuracy. Hammer of the Gods, it's got Heavy Swing. Just more damage, and we don't care about the attack speed because all we care about is the damage for the ailment. So this is just 35% more bleed, which is crazy. Fist of War, remember it's got a big ass cooldown, right? Got a 20-second cooldown. So Fist of War is literally free. It's just permanently 20% more damage and more AOE. And then Deep Cuts, this is just for a big dick Giga Bleed, which is very, very potent indeed. If you want to, if you don't like Molten Blast, you can use any other clearing ability, by the way. Mace Strike, totally viable, very powerful. Honestly, I'm thinking about maybe even switching back to Mace Strike. You can also use, if you're hardcore, you can even do some sort of weapon switch with another different weapon. You can use Quarterstaffs, you can use all sorts of shit. This clear ability, all it's doing is it's facilitating a stun build-up. So then you can press, so you can press Bone Shatter. That's all it's doing. You chuck out a little Molten Blast, you see these little white dots that appear? That means they're ready to be stunned, okay? Your main clearing is coming from this ability here, Bone Shatter. Boom. Now, Bone Shatter is not actually elemental, but we can benefit from elemental... Ooh! You can benefit from elemental supports and other supports that you otherwise couldn't have because of the fact you are a witch. And not only that, you can also have weapons that have elemental damage. So, it's not all bad to use Bone Shatter for clearing, but it is a really good clearing ability. And it pretty much one-taps anything. Like, it just one-taps entire screens. Okay, we get to a rare mob. This is a good example of what this build can do. So you get to a rare mob. What are you going to do? Okay? You're going to press your little shout. Now we have another ability, Hammer of the Gods. You drop this thing on the ground. Watch this. Watch this. No hands. It melts. That's another thing you can do. And the reason why Hammer of the Gods is on there is because Hammer of the Gods is another ability that just does insane damage. It's got a cooldown, but it does insane damage, so naturally, it's very good for bleeding. Very good for bleeding. But you don't need to use Hammer of the Gods. It's just because of the fact that you can just use it while you're moving. So if you get some guys here that are dangerous, let's just pretend this is a dangerous rare pack. You can come up to this rare pack, you can drop Hammer of the Gods, and then you can hold down block. Boom, they're dead. You were just blocking the whole time, bro, because you got active block, because the build does have a shield in it. Yeah, so you get that. And now you're wondering, how am I doing so much damage with these abilities? And that is because we're using two-handed weapons. How am I using a two-handed weapon and a one-handed? Okay, well, let's get into that. You might look at it at first and be like, what the hell is this witch tree doing? It just comes out, it just starts stacking strength, 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 strength. I haven't decided this being the final pathing, but you get the idea. You come out, you just literally raw dog, mega strength the whole way out. The main thing we're going for is Giant's Blood. Why is that? It's because all we care about is one single giant big hit. because we're trying to inflict the biggest ailment possible. Ailments are a little bit different in PoE 2. They actually scale up hit damage now. They don't have like a separate ailment scaling. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to inflict large, big, slow hits. So that's why we do this. And the reason why well, you could just not use a shield and then you don't use as much strength. But strength equals life. Life means you don't die. And then also being able to use a two-handed weapon and a one-hand means you can use a shield. And the shield literally is broken. The only thing you're looking for on your shield for the build, for survivability, is there's a roll there saying increased block chance. Okay? In PoE 2, block is both spell block and attack block. Okay? So it's crazy OP. It's literally like fucking 40% EHP when you're in the game and you're mapping, which is very, very, very powerful, and it makes it a lot easier to survive. And you can see here, we'll just show you some of the tree here. This is just like a basic skeleton tree. You can go get the idea. Pretty much, we just got like a basic damage. We get a little damage wheel over here. This is nice for clearing with bone shatter. There's a big beef node, so you basically, you've always wanted to get beef. Well, now in PoE 2, beef is actually worth taking. Okay? This is our bread and butter damage wheel. This wheel right here pretty much doubles or even triples the damage of the... I mean, it's crazy. Crazy damage. And you actually look, what is it? Damage. Reduced attack speed. We don't care about attack speed. Attack speed doesn't increase our ailment damage, so it doesn't even matter. Reduced attack speed. Magnitude of ailments. Remember, that's both bleed and ignite. So for the perfect strike, for this thing here, it's a guaranteed ignite, it's a guaranteed bleed. So you can see the synergy here is crazy, right? Look at this. Duration of damaging ailments. That's 20% more damage to both bleed and ignite. You can see magnitude, 30% more damage to, we don't care. Attack speed doesn't affect us. And then the other side of this is just, again, more damage with less attack speed. You come along here. Obviously, you're wondering what the fuck's going on here. We're going down the bottom here because you need a fuck ton of strength. So we go polymathy to satisfy those strength requirements. If you really needed to, if you're really desperate to make it easier to equip things, you can take the reduced wheel. We're then coming down, getting bleed wheel 1, bleed wheel 2, bleed wheel 3, and we're getting this whole ailment chance. And the reason why we do that is because we want all of our abilities to have bleed cap. And with this current tree, and a single bleed chance duel, you will hit bleed cap on all your abilities. And that means you don't need to use supports like bleed chance, because you can only have one chance, you can only have one support gem of each type in your build at any one time. So it's not viable to get bleed chance on all your supports. So that's the basic tree. Big elemental hits, big bleeds, stack damage. In terms of basic gearing, you want a two-handed weapon with as much damage as possible. The fizz, you want pretty much damage, fizz damage, and if you can get alley on there, cool. It really doesn't matter. Attack speed is super nice if you can get it. Pretty much anything that's just as much damage as possible, and not, remember, all we care about is that big hit number. We don't care about anything except the hit. Everything else is irrelevant. And then you just want to have gear which has life and res on it. Specifically chaos res, bros. Try get that chaos res up because there's a bunch of chaos damage that kills you. Although GGG did just nerf the game super hard because Reddit cried a bunch, so maybe it's possible to survive without having super high chaos res. How do you get to the point where you're a bleed god and one-shotting everything with bleeds? Well, you actually have to do 2 labs, which takes quite a while. So what you want to do to start off, I mean, you could just play like a completely different build and then switch with like refund points. It's cheap as fuck, especially after the changes they made. You could just do that. You just play a minion build and then switch if you really wanted to. But what I did was I just leveled up, went straight out the side here. I just leveled pretty much using just standard melee mace skills with the OP mace. And then I took early game damage nodes. So I just came in here, just took melee damage, took some melee damage. I just took damage, and then you just play the game normally, right? You just run around, and you can use whatever melee skills you want. I believe I leveled with just mace strike, bone shatter, perfect strike. And pretty much what it was go around, mace strike, bone shatter, and if there's a rare, you'd perfect strike. And perfect strike is really, really, really broken. Like perfect strike with a couple damage wheels in the start here completely just trivializes every boss in the game. Straight up. You just cast that shit at a boss. The ignite itself kills. Super easy. And then once you get to that final lab and you get that bleed node, then you just unspec out of the melee damage. You just take random melee damage nodes. It doesn't matter. I just took this shit, that shit, all this over here. And then once you get the bleed node, then you unspec out of that, and then you invest into bleed afterwards. Do not try and path all the way to bleed, okay, before you have the bleed node, because you will suffer, bro. You will suffer. It will be awful. Do not do it. The pros and the cons of the build. The pros of the build would be that you have insane fucking single target damage. If you do the war cry next to the unique enemy and you do a charge attack and you release that, it's pretty much going to one-shot any map boss in the game if you have good enough gear. Especially because I'm running on 3 links right now. So, like, you know, it's going to pretty much one-shot anything in the game. The cons would be that it's got very, very, very slow attack rate. So, naturally, when you're fighting monsters that are hasted and you're fighting monsters that are fast and dangerous, it's really hard to fucking kill them sometimes. Because you got, like, these super slow leaps. But we also use leap slam to get around, you know, like to jump up ledges and stuff. It's not really that important. But yeah, so the cons would be probably fighting monsters that are quick, because then it's really hard to, you know, do that. But hey, it's worth it for when you land those big one-shots. At the end of the day, it's a potent build. You should try it if you like off-meta hipster witch melee bleed builds. I'm definitely gonna. This is just the start of it. And remember, the way the build works is, you can scale with your fizz damage increases your bleeds, your ally damage increases your bleeds. Pretty much just because of this ascendancy, as long as you're doing either fizz, lightning, fire, or cold damage, it's all scaling the bleed damage. So they're all good, bro. All good. Just big damage good. Hey, hope you enjoyed the guide. There may be an update video if this character doesn't die in the next 5 days of me just one-shotting uber bosses with a single hit. If you want to see that, subscribe. Ciao, bros.